Hi, come on in. How are you feeling?
When you see doctors Paul Hartley and Mary Beth Riley, plus nurse practitioners Tara Bozek, Jessica Reckart, and Stacey Morris, you get one-on-one personal professional health care serving the area for over 3 decades. If you're looking for a primary care doctor, call Doctors Hartley and Riley at 724-437-1109 or online at ppcp.org. Or
serving number 3,944.
And it's 11:25 on this Monday, and it's time for the Attorney Joe Fleschko law program at Quatrini Law Group. And our guest today is Vince Quatrini. Vince, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, and thanks for the invitation.
You're welcome.
And, it's a little funny for the audience to be hearing from somebody other than Joe each time. But now that he's joined our firm, he's asked us to bring in other members of the firm to talk to your listeners and explain the type of legal work that our law firm does, much like Joe did, but we have other practice areas that affect individuals. So, good morning, Uniontown, and good morning, Fayette County. I'm Vince Quatrini from the Quatrini Law Group, and Joe still has his office in Uniontown and Somerset, as well as the offices that we now have in Greensburg, Latrobe, Altoona, and Pittsburgh. So lots of ways for you to connect with us for legal issues that you have, continuing the great tradition of Joe Fleschko here in the Uniontown area. Today, I wanted to talk about a subject that is very important to Fayette County and has been part of my history since I started practicing law many, many years ago, and that's black lung. I don't have to tell you, anybody out there who has it, a family member who has it, family member who has passed away from it, how devastating black lung is. So let me give you an overview of what we'll discuss this morning and then get into specifics. So we'll talk about when the act was passed, the purpose of the act, the benefits available under the black lung. This is the Federal Black Lung Act. Whether those benefits would impact your Social Security benefit, the regulations for qualifying for black lung. Is federal black lung different than Pennsylvania black lung? Why is black lung now on the increase after so many years of going down? If we have so many regulations on coal dust, where can you go for help or answers to questions you have about whether you have black lung and whether you'd qualify for benefits as a result of it? And perhaps most important in this conversation today is, why is the federal government closing the Mount Pleasant Mine Safety Office, which is the most active mine safety office in America and governs the regulations of coal mines throughout Pennsylvania? So the Black Lung Act was passed in 1972. The principal writer of that statute was a local representative, a congressman, John H. Dent. John Dent, maybe the older population listening today would remember him. He was from Jeannette. He was in the state legislature for a number of years and then went on to the United States House of Representatives. And John Dent was just a really powerful personality who cared deeply about individual rights. And coming from Jeannette, in the heart of western Pennsylvania coal, he knew what the devastating effects of black lung were having on his constituents. I started practicing only a few years after that act was passed. And I was an employee of John Dent. I worked for the congressman while I was in college and stayed close to him in his office for many years. So I learned how to handle a federal black lung case. And the hearings are administrative hearings when you file your claim. But so back to John Dent, you can imagine the powers that he had to push back against to increase mine safety, to increase the regulations that limit the amount of dust that you're exposed to in a coal mine. But he did. And with the help of congressmen from the Kentucky area, they formed a coalition that got this statute passed. And then the United States Department of Labor is the federal agency that regulates black lung, and they have local offices. You can Google a lot of this information, and that's part of the answer to the later question of how do I find my answers. But so you have this federal system that you make application to the United States Department of Labor. Your application's considered. They look at the regulations. Now, those regulations have changed dramatically over the course of the Act's history. Sometimes less lenient, sometimes more enforced. So depending on what administration was in Washington, that would vary as to whether you'd have a better chance of getting black lung or a worse chance of getting it. So who qualifies? Well, the coal miner would be entitled to a benefit, and the dependent spouse would be entitled to a benefit. If the individual passes away from black lung, the spouse is entitled to a monthly benefit for life. I remember in the early days when I was representing coal miners, the stories were just so dramatic. They would come in and talk about working in coal that was like 18 or 24 inches high. Think of that. Hardly able to even navigate in water up to their knees. So they had the canary in the coal mines. You never knew how serious the air quality was in the mine back in those days. You just went and worked all day long and came home and your knees hurt, your shoulders hurt, your lungs hurt. So what is black lung? It's a condition that affects your lungs, of course. And what it does, in the coal is a particle called silica. This silica deposits into your air sacs of your lungs. And it causes those air sacs to constrict, to get tighter, so that when you breathe, you don't have the same capacity, the same ability to bring in air. And it's that restriction that affects your ability to work and essentially what disables you. There are different levels of black lung, and the federal regulations outline it. Small opacities in your lungs, large opacities. And the regulations focus on how bad your condition is by looking at MRIs and chest x-rays and the like. And, of course, pulmonary function studies. You go in and you do this study where you breathe into a tube and you exhale as hard as you can. They measure everything, and it tells you whether your breathing is actually restricted. And that combination of the x-ray and the breathing test result and or blood gases, that's another study that measures your ability to bring in the air and have it go through your system to oxygenize and to give you the ability to breathe and function. So that's the basics of it. The fancy term for black lung is pneumoconiosis, if you ever hear that phrase. And so who would you treat with? Well, a pulmonologist, a lung doctor would be somebody. A rehabilitation doctor called a physiatrist would be somebody who would be able to help you with physical therapy and ways to improve your breathing after you get out of the mines. Digress for a moment. You only have a certain amount of time to file for most claims, but with federal black lung, there's no deadline to speak of. You can file pretty much anytime, but I'm going to qualify that. There could be some exceptions to that. Okay, now we've focused on federal black lung for a while, and I want to now talk about the Pennsylvania black lung law. Well, Pennsylvania's black lung is essentially within the Workers' Comp Act. It's just a section of the Workers' Comp Act that applies to pneumoconiosis. And if you have so many years in the mines, you get a presumption that if you have this condition, that it is related to working in the mines. You don't have to prove that it didn't come from where you live or some other way that you may have been exposed to breathing problems. So you have this presumption if you've been working for a number of years in the mines that helps you get your entitlement. What we do, we handle the Pennsylvania workers' compensation black lung claims. So if you were working at Corsa, for instance, and you developed the breathing problems that I'm talking about, we should go have you do a pulmonary function study. Go get an x-ray done so that we can establish that you would not be able to continue to work in the coal mines, and then you would be entitled to a weekly benefit from Pennsylvania workers' comp statute and the payment of medical bills that relate to the treatment of your black lung. So, to recap, you have a federal black lung statute and a Pennsylvania black lung statute under the Workers' Comp Act. And you couldn't apply for both. There are set-offs if you get one or the other, but the regulations are much different for each. And what we do with our clients is we go through everything and make a determination. Can we help you apply for black lung under the Workers' Comp Act of Pennsylvania? If it's a federal claim, we can give you the names of individuals who do those claims. We do not. I did them for many, many years, as I told you, but there are only a few law firms who continue to do that work. One group that has been excellent in this area is called Lungs at Work. Lungs at Work do all of the assessments and can help you determine. They cover a lot of states, not just Pennsylvania, and they can get you started down the federal black lung road. Lungs at Work is the name of the institution. They've been around for a long time, and they're very dedicated to coal miners. So where can you go for help or answers? I think we've covered a lot of that. Again, we can answer many of those questions. And, also, how does that interact with Social Security disability if you're under the age of 67? Well, we would be applying you for both Social Security disability based on your lungs and somebody would apply you for federal black lung based on your lungs, and or we would apply you for Pennsylvania workers' compensation for your lungs. So all three of these programs are possible income sources, and we figure out what's the best combination to provide you with a long-term stream of income. One of the mainstays of our law firm and Joe's law firm has been helping people get Social Security disability. There is a process. We utilize our relationships with physicians to get you to the right place, get the right test done, no matter what your medical problem is. Social Security disability, of course, isn't just for your lungs. It's for any medical condition that would keep you from being able to perform what is called substantial gainful employment. So if you're just tuning in, we're focusing on black lung today, both the federal and the state programs, and how you may qualify, and what the regulations are around it, and the benefits that are payable under the federal or the state program. The federal program has one flat amount. Doesn't matter what you earned, the amount's the same for everybody. The Pennsylvania Workers' Compensation Act is based on what you were earning. And fortunately, a number of coal miners are making a good living right now. And so that if you aren't able to work and you would qualify, you would be entitled to roughly about $1,350 a week in your Pennsylvania Workers' Compensation black lung benefit. Again, along with the payment of your medical bills that apply to your lungs. So I wanted to touch here on the closing of the Mount Pleasant Mine Safety Office. I'm actually stunned that that's occurring. It has been the most prolific, effective mine safety office probably in America, because again, coal mining only applies to certain states. And why is that important to you, the coal miner, and your family? Because they performed inspections of the mine that you're working in. They show up to see if the employer is following the federal regulations on dust levels, on having supports in place, having better air quality in the mine. And it goes on and on. There's so many things they do that you probably don't even realize are critical to your safety in the coal mine. And don't have to tell you, you've lived it. Coal mining is one of the most dangerous occupations, period. So closing a mine safety office whose principal responsibility is to inspect not only before, but after accidents occur. Why? Well, we want to get in there and find out why that accident happened so that we can prevent another accident of the same type in the future. And sadly, there are a number of fatalities in a coal mine that occur because of the magnitude of what occurs. You know, a roof collapse. These machines are just so heavy and used in tight spaces, and the equipment you use. And the accidents happen quickly, abruptly. You don't have a chance to run away from it or avoid it many times. So having a effective mine safety office that we know is going to come in and hold the employer responsible for what happened, as well as making sure that same type of accident doesn't happen in the future, is of course critical. And I don't know what the answer is. The administration that we have brags about helping coal miners. Well, how in God's name are you helping coal miners? Yeah, you may keep the mine open, but what the hell good is that if you're going to let them be mortally injured, critically injured, their whole lives change? The forget black lung for a moment. It's all these other physical injuries, including being killed in a coal mine. So you're not doing any favors for these coal miners by keeping mines open and letting the coal mine safety office be closed. Not only letting it be closed, but shutting it down. The most effective, the most busy mine safety office in America is in Mount Pleasant, and it is being shut down as of this day. And so I can't imagine what it's going to be like over into the future. And you got to ask yourself, well, why is that even happening? Why wouldn't you want to, if you want to keep coal mines open, and shouldn't you be at the same time making sure that these coal miners are safe as they can be? Well, of course. So there's a motive here. I don't know what the hell the motive is. But, they create the appearance that you're helping the people of Fayette County and Uniontown hold on to their jobs. But at what cost? At what price is that occurring? That's what terrifies me. I spent my life representing injured individuals, people who are killed in the workplace, coal miners, as I told you, that worked in water up to their knees. We finally were developing really safe level, at least a level in a coal mine that you could expect that if you went to work in the morning that you'd come home with your lunch bucket at night. So I'm distressed that this has occurred. I don't know if there will be any pushback by our local representatives or our two Pennsylvania senators. I would think so. Both McCormick and Fetterman should be all over this. And you, I would offer, should be all over them to get the Mount Pleasant Mine Safety Office reopened, so that you can protect your loved ones and know that they'll come home from work after a day in the coal mine. So to recap this morning, black lung is a serious medical problem that was on the down slope, but is now starting to increase. Well, what I'm going to talk about has nothing to do with the mine safety discussion. That's going to make it even more precarious without the inspectors going in and making sure things are the way they're supposed to be. The increase in black lung and what's called complicated pneumoconiosis. It's on the rise, even with all the regulations we have. And the question is why? Well, a lot of mining is surface mining, right? And surface mining requires that you detonate the hillside. You blow it up, and so that you can recover the coal seam that's there. But in the process of blowing it up, you're also blowing up stone. That it's the coal is stuck between the stone, right? Well, stone has silica, just like the coal particles. And this silica apparently is even more deadly than the silica that comes in a coal particle. And so what we're seeing is, remember I talked about the fact that you go get an x-ray done and they look at these size of your opacities that are causing your air sacs to restrict. Well, complicated pneumoconiosis takes up even more space. Those opacities are larger which then restrict your breathing air sacs even more and cause a greater level of disability and or death over time. So it's the uptick in the coal surface mining and the exposure to rock dust that has silica that is creating another serious medical condition for the coal miner to be aware of. So protect yourself as best you can, especially if you're in surface mining. You know, in the other editorial here is that, you know, many of you have no protection from a union. At least those who have a union protection know that at the end of the day, they're going to get a better treatment by their employer than if they have no union protection. And I've always been a huge fan of unions for many reasons that you here in Fayette County and Uniontown know why you need the protection of a union for your job, for your safety levels. All of those different items make a difference. And when you're working on a coal job and have no union protection, anything can happen, and does in often the cases. I've represented a number of people here I'm going down the Uniontown Workers' Comp office when I leave here this morning to represent an injured worker. So to I guess again recap this conversation we've had this morning on black lung. Protect yourself. Reach out for ways to go get your evaluations periodically so that you can see if there's any increase occurring in your level of breathing, decrease in your level of breathing, whether you're developing any opacities in your lungs. You know, both of those are critical knowledge that you need. And I will say this, if you get out soon enough, you can recover to some extent. One of my best colleagues in the medical profession, Greg Fino, he's a pulmonologist, did a lot of black lung work. In fact, we still work with him. Told me that with regard to these lung diseases, a third get worse, a third stay the same, and a third can improve to some extent over time once they're out of the coal dust and have the proper medical treatment for their condition. And so we have those resources to help you determine whether you should be getting out, whether you should be getting examined. Another subject we've talked about, I think, already is hearing loss. The coal miners at Corsa, since that's closed, we've sent a number of them up to get hearing tests. And if you have hearing loss from being in a coal mine, which is greater than 10%, then you are entitled to a number of weeks of workers' compensation benefits for that hearing loss. And there are certain physicians who know that what testing needs done and how to do it. We get that test done. We go over the results with our client. We can tell them whether or not they're entitled to file for hearing loss. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about this morning. Let me take a couple minutes at the end here to acquaint you with the new Joe Fleschko work atmosphere now that he's with our law firm, Quatrini Law Group. We're maintaining our Uniontown office. We're maintaining our Somerset office that Joe Fleschko and Associates has had forever. Those offices, if you have a legal need in the practice areas we do, workers' comp, Social Security, disability, long-term disability, veterans disability. We'll see you by appointment at either the Somerset office or the Uniontown office or Greensburg office if that's convenient for you. And we'll assess your case, determine whether or not we can help you. We've been at it for many, many years and have developed an expertise that I can say is better, is more effective than many of our colleagues in this world. And what we hope we give you at the end of the day is a sense of knowing that we care about what happens and we'll do the best we can to have a good outcome for you. We keep it local. We make it as simple as we can so that we can have the conversation and you have confidence that you're going to be taken care of and that your legal need will be met. So reach out to us if you have questions about any of these different practice areas: workers' compensation injuries, which involve black lung, Social Security disability, long-term disability. I wanted to mention to you about the employment rights attorneys we have now brought down to the firm. We'll have, I think Sam's already been here, or will be here, Sam Cordes, Jay Black. They're going to come down and talk to you about what your rights are in the workplace in terms of employment, in terms of harassment, in terms of being retaliated against. These are the things that we have determined over time are all important to our clients so that when you come in, we can handle anything pretty much that has gone wrong in the workplace for you. And I'm not sure if Michael has been here. My son, Michael Quatrini, has developed an expertise in veterans service-connected disability. I know Erica Dowd was here already, and I hope she was able to acquaint you with the kind of practice that we have that help you find out if you're entitled to a monthly benefit from the federal government for a service-connected disability that you have. It can go the whole way back to Vietnam, where we have many times been able to obtain awards for individuals who, as we say, had a boot on the ground in Vietnam and the surrounding countries. So I'll close off today thanking you for this opportunity to share my experience with black lung, both at the federal level and the state level, and welcome and look forward to other programs in the future with the Joe Fleschko and Associates at the Quatrini Law Group Law Program. Have a great day, Uniontown and Fayette County.
You're listening to WMBS Union.